wonderful. If there's one place I can really unwind, it must be right here in the forest. Just smell that. There's no perfume that can beat that. Forests are wonderful, by the way. They're a source of food for animals and insects. They heighten biodiversity, and they play a crucial part in battling global warming. But how exactly do they do that? To get an answer to that question, I'm meeting up with Professor Joris van Acker from Ghent University. So, Professor, I've been told that trees and forests might be key in countering global warming. Am I correct?
They definitely are a major part of it. And the story that trees, by evaporating water, they do cool down the local climate are for sure true. But the extra and probably the more eminent element is that they capture CO2 and build it in the wood as carbon. And these wood products, if we use them, we can even have the material for longer, keeping the CO2 from the atmosphere, and as such, we are contributing to climate change mitigation.
I see. Okay, so if I'm looking at these trees right here, they are actually holding CO2 in them under the form of carbon. Right? Okay. So let's say we want to make long life products with these, sustainable products as well, furniture, but you could talk about timber construction as well. They all contain CO2 as well and carbon, which will not be diffused in our atmosphere.
Correct. And as long as we use this material, and we probably should always try to get them from the forest which is sustainably managed, so that we only focus on that what is growing and we capture only that volume or that material. But in the phase of using the material, as long as we can use it, it's keeping the CO2, but also recycle, reuse, and in the end we will still have the energy there, but we also will be replacing, substituting other materials like plastics, like steel, like concrete, which are requiring more energy to get to a final product. In this way, we also lower the need to have CO2 in our atmosphere and getting more solutions for climate change.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but wood is just a fantastic product.
It's fantastic in the fact that it can be so versatile and used in so many applications. But it's even more fantastic because it is renewable. So we can get it from nature, we can regrow it, and it's never getting exhausted like you have materials that are mineral or related to iron ore or these things. We definitely can regrow it and substitute some of these materials in many, many applications. So it's actually a fantastic modern product, although we know it since very long.
Excellent, Professor. Thank you so much for your time. I might just go and pop in at Unilin Group because they use wood as one of their raw products, of course, and they might have some answers to my questions. Thank you so much. Alexander, now I know that wood is one of the main raw products you use right here at Unilin Group, but then again, you as business manager wood, what can you tell me more about that?
Unilin Group is a worldwide reference in interior design and construction, and wood is the main raw material for our chipboards, MDF panels, decorative wall panels, quick-step laminate and parquet.
Okay, I gotcha. Now, I've been looking around here. You don't have that many forests here, so where does this wood come from?
Yeah, exactly, and that's Unilin's strength. We treat our raw materials in a very creative and sustainable way, where many other people would see only waste. We see a valuable raw material to make a beautiful product out of. Most of the wood-based products that we have at Unilin Group, such as MDF, HDF and quick-step laminate, are made from recovered wood. Recovered wood means, for example, roadside trimmings, leftovers from sawmills, or wood that is coming from sustainable forest management. Sustainable forest management means that no trees are chopped in protected areas. When they are chopped, it is done in a controlled way, for example, to give room for a younger tree to grow. Okay. And that is actually also the case for the logs which you see here on our site. They are actually too thin or crooked to be used in a traditional application, such as a board or a furniture. Yeah. And this way, Unilin Group manages to give this wood a new high-value application. And this way we save it from being burnt and lengthen the lifespan of the wood.
That's excellent. So nothing goes to waste. What do you use this wood for then?
We take the wood and we chip it into very small fibers. Then we compress it under a high pressure into an HDF or MDF panel, which in turn is used as a basis for a quick-step laminate. And this way, actually, we store the CO2 which is captured into the wood into our products. So if you install a quick-step laminate floor in your house, you're also storing the CO2 in your house and you're contributing into the fight against climate change.
That's a win-win for everybody then. Caroline, so I've been told that here at Unilin Group you really put an emphasis on sustainability. How so?
Absolutely. As for our MDF panels and our laminate floors, we already use recovered wood. But for our chipboards, we even go one step further by using recycled waste wood as raw material. And that waste wood, that can be waste wood from an old cabinet that you dispose at the container yard, or it can be demolition waste, for example. And at Unilin Group, our chipboards consist out of more than 90% of recycled wood. So you could say that it's thanks to our chipboards that the wood gets a second, a third, a fourth life. And that's our mission at Unilin Group. We want to keep wood as long as possible into the chain.
Okay, so this means that an old chipboard can be recycled into a brand new one then, am I correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And that way we close the loop. It's a circular model. And that's good for the planet, of course, because that way we need less fresh raw materials. And by recycling the wood, we keep the CO2 into the wood and longer out of the air. So a sustainable approach, in other words. And with our recycling ratio of 90%, we're the leaders in our industry.
You are the leaders. Then again, sounds very ambitious, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's our nature. By 2030, we want to reduce our CO2 emissions with 42% and we will be climate neutral by 2050. And the circular model is key in this regard.
Okay. Other question, can you turn any waste wood into a brand new chipboard, for instance?
That's a good question. No, this waste wood comes in different qualities, and when the waste wood is too damaged or contaminated, it can't be used as a raw material for our high-end products, of course.
I see.
But at Unilin Panels, we have well-advanced cleaning processes to upgrade as much as waste wood as possible into raw materials for our products. And that's needed because we recycle almost 1 million tons a year. And we invested more than 40 million euros over the last years into this process.
Okay, then how does this go? What's the process?
It's a combination of techniques. We have magnets, wind sifters, we even use infrared light to do the sorting of the streams.
Wow, that sounds very science fiction. We talked about chipboards. What about MDF?
Maybe first the difference between a chipboard and an MDF. The difference is in the size of the wood fibers, whereas in an MDF board the fibers are much finer than they are in a chipboard. Until recently, actually, there was no solution to recycle MDF or laminate floors on an industrial scale. But recently we found the solution, a world breakthrough, based on our own research and development.
A world premiere?
Indeed.
Okay, so what could you tell me about that one then?
My colleague Laurent Meersman will be happy to tell you everything about it.
Excellent, Caroline. Thank you so much.
Laurent, I've been told that MDF and HDF are really hard to recycle. Why?
Yeah, that's correct, because MDF and HDF are using thinner fibers, and those thin fibers are much more difficult to dislodge from each other. Next to that, we also need higher density boards to have a better impact.
Okay.
And those high density fiber boards actually needs a lot of fibers. That's why today they are made out of recovered wood, but in the future we will be able to recycle them. That's a great thing.
I understand. So does this mean I could recycle wood infinitely then?
No. After a certain moment, when you recycle them very often, the fibers are becoming too small. But then we are still able to send them to one of our green energy plants. We have 2 of those in Unilin Group.
Yes. And something tells me that'll be my next destination.
Stephen, Unilin Group recycles up to 1 million tons of wood every year.
Then again, what happens to non-recyclable wood?
Well, for that, the Unilin Group has established a joint venture together with Aspiravi, a green energy producer, and established two companies, two green energy power plants, ANS Energy and ANU Energy. In both power plants, we use or we convert the non-recyclable waste wood into green power. Okay. They are both state-of-the-art installations where we can produce in a clean way green energy.
Excellent. Now, what determines which wood can be recycled and which can't?
Well, for that we do some quality checks with the incoming trucks. So it's like an inverse quality check. We have a look whether the wood is contaminated enough to be non-recyclable so that we can use it. Okay. When we get some deliveries where the trucks or the waste wood is not contaminated enough, then we refuse it and we shift it back to the Unilin Group where they can make products out of it.
Excellent.
The wood that is no longer recyclable at Unilin Group is converted into green energy by burning it. The CO2 released during this process is compensated because we only burn the wood after it has been recycled several times or after it had already had a product life. During that time, new trees have grown, which in turn capture CO2, and so the circle is complete.
Wow, excellent. So you guys produce green energy. What type of energy?
Well, it's green electricity and green heat. And both are delivered to the Unilin Group facility next door.
Okay, so what you're saying is that the Unilin Group facility next door uses your energy, so you provide almost all energy to them.
Yes, that's right, but we produce and we deliver more energy than what is only used by the Unilin Group itself. So we also inject green electricity for around 40,000 families.
Wow.
And next to that, we also deliver green heat to a potato processing facility around 2.5 kilometers away from here, where they make French fries out of it. But I'd rather call it Belgium fries.
Excellent. That's a heartwarming story. Thank you
Absolutely.
for your positive energy. The bottom line is, wood is an amazing product and crucial as a weapon in our battle against global warming. Trees extract CO2 from the air, they store it in their wood, and even if you make a piece of furniture out of it or a floor, then the CO2 remains stored. Come to think of it, trees might just be high tech. They extract more CO2 out of the atmosphere than any machine humans can build. One thing remains certain, at Unilin Group, they have a strong passion for wood and they make it their mission to keep wood in the chain as long as possible.